helps everything, and that way Jody won't manually mute you. If you could just remember to do that, that'd be awesome. Yeah, so it looks like we have Toby and Bob. So we are a quorum.
All right. Well, with no further ado then, I think we will go ahead and call our meeting to order. And we have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
All
All in favor?
I don't see Bob.
I don't see Bob. We have a pretty thin quorum here, Bob.
I mean, I wouldn't mind waiting a minute or two. It seems like it's not quite. I guess my iPhone just said it's 7.
Okay.
We're fine.
I'll chill.
Where are you, Toby?
I'm upstairs on the balcony.
Okay, yeah, that's what I remember.
Try to get a little bit of outside Zoom time today.
Trying to catch Neowise also.
I did, yeah. Gosh, I saw it from Jensen Point. And it was so cool.
Yeah, pretty spectacular.
Yeah. Years ago, I was climbing Mount Hood in the winter, and I think it was the Hale-Bopp comet that was coming through. It was like 1997 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember trudging up the mountain, really tired, and then it was like 2 in the morning, and there was this bright comet. Kind of felt renewed in my energy and spirit. It was cool. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Crystal clear sky and winter February.
Cool. Okay, I think we're ready to go, Reagan.
All right.
All righty. Well, welcome once again to the July 23rd Vashon Island School District School Board meeting. We're going to call it to order. And do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Yay. Hey, Spring.
Hi.
Hi there.
Hi. Sorry, I'm driving and getting off the ferry, so I'm probably not going to turn my video on until I get home.
Totally fine. Totally fine.
You don't have to see me drive.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, Bob, can we just get a video check, audio check on you and on the vote for the approval of the agenda?
Sorry, is my audio bad? It's notoriously bad.
No worries.
Is it
All right, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard him come in.
All right, great.
All right, so that's gonna take us to public comment. And I just wanna say before I turn it over to Slade that we had an enormous amount of public comment for this meeting, which is great. We appreciate all the ideas and brainstorming and input and feedback and relating your experiences, and we get it, we hear you. It's a difficult issue to try and work our way through, but we're hoping to be creative. And we have usually 15 minutes allotted for public comment in the school board meeting, and we have easily that amount just in the written comments we received alone. And then there was also a video submitted that we're probably only going to be able to show a few minutes of, but we will post the link to that. It also deals with the subject of outdoor education. Some of our great parents took the time to put that together, and we really encourage everyone to view that online after the meeting if we are only able to see a portion of it now, or if we're not able to get to it, because we have quite a bit of public comment. So with that, I'll turn it over to Slade.
Great, and thank you very much. And it looks like we have been able to, pardon me, we have been able to upload the link. So if our public does go into public comment right now, they will see all public comments that were submitted, in the time frame given, and the video as well. It does, so some of the comments, I just want to preface this, really give great context to our parents' experiences during our spring closure. And But attached to that context is also a letter to our board, what some might call a form letter. And so if there are public comments that I'm reading from and it has that same language, rather than, I really want to get to as much public comment as possible. So I'm going to kind of stop and maybe end some of those letters somewhat short, because it's exactly what may have been heard in a prior letter or what it may have been previously read. So when that happens, I'll indicate it so that our public does know that what was to follow from that particular public comment was identical or part of a previously read letter. So with that, I'm just going to get into it, and I'm going to take these in order that they arrived. And so let me go ahead and I'm going to click on them. The first one is from Belinda Olivera Jovanovic and says, "Dear Slade," and but it was CC to the board as well. "It has become clear that Vashon will more than likely not qualify for phase 3 reopening of the school district. I don't think that online learning is the best option for teachers, students, and staff for the 2020-2021 school year. I found it incredibly challenging to online educate while working from home, but the most difficult experience was how much my only child struggled with being away from his community. Families across the island are straining under the weight of work and the additional burden of facilitating an online education for elementary age students who in most cases cannot work independently. I am grateful that the Vashon Island School District has come up with a plan for in-person education once our country hits phase 3 benchmarks. I believe that taking temperatures, wearing masks, sanitizing surfaces, working in small groups, and social distancing will all work together to keep our students, faculty, and staff safe. I also believe that we should utilize perhaps our biggest safety tool, the outdoors. I am asking that the school board consider a 100% outdoor nature-based school option for the upcoming year. That way, regardless of what happens with the virus levels in our state and county, we can provide a stable and safe educational program for our island's children. The science is clear. Outdoor education increases student motivation, decreases stress levels, and improves immune function. Additionally, in this time when climate change is such a pressing concern, increasing our children's connection to the natural world should be one of our primary concerns. I would love to see our community combine our required Common Core instruction with a robust outdoor learning program. Right now, our teachers are being asked to use Common Core standards to come up with an online education program. I think that it might be easier for them to pivot and make their in-person plans compatible for an outdoor environment. I believe that our island has the resources and will to make this happen if we are willing to come together as an island on behalf of our children. Thank you so much for all you do. Belinda Olivera Jovanovic, parent of second grader. The next public comment comes from Tara O'Malley. Hello, school board. I hope you and your families are well. I appreciate you for the way you've been handling it for what seems to be an impossible solution. I don't foresee King County moving into phase 3 anytime soon. And from my experience, online school has not been working for my family. In my family, I deal with significant health issues and with 2 special ed kiddos. It is nearly impossible for me to manage their schoolwork, outside play, focus. There are many days when I am simply laid up in bed all day. I am seriously concerned about what this is doing to their social, emotional growth, as well as their academic development. As I'm sure you've experienced, it's quite challenging to tend to work and educate our kids at the same time, especially with younger kids who must be constantly supervised. The plan you've created for phase 3, in my opinion, was well thought out and thorough. Even though we have 3/4 of our household with compromised lungs, immune systems, I feel good about sending my kids to school under the phase 3 conditions you set out. Unfortunately, in the meantime, our school community is taking a hit developmentally. Our parents and caregivers are strapped. Our teachers are wanting to be with the students, but only if it's truly safe. I am asking that the school board consider 100% outdoor school. I realize there will be things to deal with in this model, and I have confidence as a community we would come together and find solutions. Here is a website that was created to support schools considering outdoor school, and it's the greenschoolyards.org website. I feel that outdoor school would not only put our hands on the levers and dials of our kids' education, but provide many positive benefits proven to impact mental and physical health, including reducing stress and improving immune function. Let's take advantage of this opportunity and create something extraordinary. something that makes OSPI pause and consider a new way of educating our school communities. Again, I am so grateful for the thought and attention you are giving to this. Tara Schaller, parent to a 7th and 3rd grader. This next public comment comes from Callie Buse. Dear Slade, it has become clear that Vashon will more than likely not qualify for phased reopening of the school district. I don't think that online learning is the best option for teachers, students, and staff for the 2021 school year. I have an incoming kindergartner as well as a 2nd grader who experienced remote learning last spring and really struggled with it. My son, the 2nd grader, is a kinesthetic learner who excels at math and science but struggles with reading and writing. In addition, his focus and attention suffer if he has too much screen time. Because of this, remote learning did not work for him. Because of this, online remote learning did not work for him. Online learning relies too much on visual and auditory forms of learning and on writing-based assessment, which means my son doesn't have access to curriculum in a way that suits his learning styles and cannot demonstrate his knowledge well due to his writing struggles. In addition, remote learning did not allow him to access the supports he was receiving from reading intervention as they were all video-based, which he struggled with. My kindergartner is extremely social, and while she did not participate in remote learning, I worry it is not a good fit for her as she hated the optional Zoom meetings her preschool did, as it was too difficult to actually have meaningful interactions with other young children in that format. I also worry about how I will be able to manage both of their online learning, as my son needed me 100% of the time if he was able to participate at all. Having multiple young children learning that way is not going to work for our family or for many other island families. I've always been a huge proponent of public school, and in fact previously was a 6th grade teacher in the Highline School District, and very much want to keep my children enrolled at Chautauqua and keep their funding coming to VISD. However, I worry that there's no in-person component and we are relying completely on remote online learning, that in order to meet my children's needs, I might need to switch to homeschooling them. I do not want to do this, and we will try the district offerings first and hope they can align with our learning styles and needs. Families across the island are straining under the weight of work and additional burden of facilitating an online education for elementary age students who in most cases cannot work independently. At that point in time, it appears that what is written has been previously read or is part of a form letter that was sent to our board. I want to ensure once again that all public comment is being read by our board, but in order to facilitate the most public comment, we are going to take the personal context of these letters, prioritize them in front of the form letter part. This is from Stephanie Gogarden. Dear School Board, I would like to express my support for the outdoor school model that has been proposed by others in our community. Online learning was not successful for my elementary age students despite the best efforts of their teachers. A move to outdoor education for Chautauqua would allow children to learn while prioritizing the safety of teachers and students. Thanks, Stephanie Gogarden. This next letter is from Rhonda Hopgood. And I apologize in advance if I pronounce any of our family's parents' names wrong. Email me and let me know. Dear Slade, it has become clear that Vashon will more than likely not qualify for the phased reopening of the school district. I don't think that online learning is the best option for teachers, students, and staff for the 2021 school year. Insert your family's story about online education or about trying to work and educate your kids at the same time, to be clear and honest. So I know she's going to get to that part. Families across the island are straining under the weight of work and the additional burden of facilitating an online education for elementary students who in most cases cannot work independently. The rest of this letter does appear to follow what has been previously read. This is a public comment from Lindsay Gay. Dear Dr. McSheehy, Principal Gertzel, and VISD School Board. I write as one of a set of parents who would like to propose a version of in-person schooling for the beginning of the 2021 academic year. It is becoming clear that Vashon will likely not qualify for the phased reopening of the school district. I don't think that online learning is the best option for teachers, staff, and students. Families across the island are straining under the weight of work and the additional burden of facilitating an online education for elementary students who in most cases cannot work independently. In our family, we are lucky to have retained our jobs during the pandemic, but both parents work remotely full-time, and we cannot give our full attention to our jobs and our son, who is supposed to start kindergarten this fall. If we have to continue keeping him at home, one of us will need to take a prolonged leave of absence, which will cut our income drastically and lead to potential problems making our rent. But most importantly, our kiddo needs the social interaction, guidance from adults other than his parents, and academic engagement that in-person learning offers. Frankly, trying to get him to focus on a lesson delivered via a screen will result primarily in him associating school with boredom. I imagine the same applies for many other families with elementary-age children. I am grateful that the Vashon, I believe at this point in time, the letter does go to what has been previously read. And Lindsay actually, I believe, got back to us and let us know that'd be okay to cut her letter short from that part. This public comment is from Ruben and Maya McKnight. Good evening, members of the school board. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. My wife and I appreciate the enormity of the challenges facing the school district and especially teachers this coming fall, and the difficulty of large-scale planning in a very dynamic situation. We wanted to share a few thoughts that we have on this as it pertains to our experiences. First, like many other parents, we found that the shift to online learning in the spring did not work well for our kids. While we have been extremely fortunate that we have been able to be at home with our children during this time, we had very limited success keeping our daughters engaged. Like many other island families, a major challenge of distance learning is connectivity, both digitally and socially. Distance learning presumes and requires good internet access, and for many island families, this is just not the case. For technology, our DSL line is the only direct internet available to us and has been unreliable, often not working during peak hours. This means that uploading and downloading assignments, conferencing, and watching content is very hit or miss. We were given an estimate of $156,000 to bring broadband to our home. Social interaction is one of the most important critical components of education. Social interaction is learning, and it provides motivation and inspiration. For this reason, we believe in-person classroom learning is always preferred when feasible and safe. Now it appears that in-person learning will probably represent an unacceptable risk to individual and community health unless there are significant changes to the current spread of COVID. If distance learning is the only feasible option for the fall, both digital and social connectivity needs to be addressed. Scheduling is done in part around the logistics of physical classroom attendance, but if physical attendance is not a factor, then perhaps this in-person model can be re-examined. My older daughter is entering high school this year, and her new schedule has no shared classes with any of her close friends. Normally, in a physical setting, she would make new friends. Considering our experience with distance learning this spring, we are very worried about this critical transition into a new high school environment with no peers nor any way to develop new social bonds in the distance learning model. What we would like to see is consideration of a class scheduling approach that would allow families that are willing and comfortable to allow kids who already know each other to learn together in small groups. This would permit some social interaction in low-risk settings, allow for shared educational experience, and could potentially help with issues like childcare as well. We write this with the awareness that there are many competing and complex requirements at play, and we deeply appreciate the board's and staff's time and efforts on these difficult matters. Thank you, Ruben and Maya McKnight. This public comment is from Dominique Jovanovic. Okay, it has become clear that Vashon will more than likely not qualify for phase 3 reopening of the school district. I don't think that online learning is the best option for teachers, students, and staff for the 2021 school year. Working class families across the island are straining under the weight of the additional burden of facilitating an online education for elementary age students who in most cases cannot work independently. My family in particular finds it almost impossible to school at home. We live in low-income housing at Airness Apartments because the housing market is too expensive to own a home. There are many more like us with children who live here. We have problems with transients and drug activity here. These units are small, and all the parents here and all working parents on the island require 2 people to work to be able to survive. When the children are at school, we at least know they are safe and being educated. We are not teachers, we are parents. We literally cannot do it all. A full online course will only benefit those who already have enough economic stability to stay home already. This policy is going to crush working class families and students. My second point, and most importantly, I feel, is social relationships and social development. As you are aware, school is much more than reading and writing. It is an entire social network system that students and parents and educators play a vital role in. The response to the virus has been most detrimental to our developing youth. They crucially need to have the ability to cultivate their social groups. Without it, they will maldevelop or not develop social skills at all. Depression among our young children cannot be an option. Isolating them further spells distress not only immediately, but the future consequences could be horrific. There is historical evidence and data that shows that outdoor learning is a comparable learning environment for children. In fact, we have outdoor learning already on Vashon. Cedar Song School offers that. Please seriously consider the developmental impact of young children and the economic hardship of the full online schedule. This public comment does go into comment that we've already heard. This comment is from Margie Butcher. Dear Slade, Reagan, Spring, Bob, Zabette, and Toby. I write to you as a teacher at Chautauqua, parent of a VHS junior and member of our community. This letter comes from all three perspectives and with the direct purpose of helping the district and the community of residents, teachers, students, and employees. We all cherish the gifts and assets Vashon schools bring to our community, both on island and off. The current situation and our reaction to it can either increase the risk of losing significant enrollment this year or allow us to find elegant solutions to both the immediate and long-term goals of the district and community. For those of you who know me, I try to find creative solutions to problems. I believe in trying new things. Even if they do not always work out this initially, often with adjustments they do. I base my ideas on experience, facts, and strategically envisioning what could be. And to be clear, the solutions we need now are already in front of us. A loss of enrollment will be devastating for our district. If we lose enrollment, we lose staff, and our district cannot afford to lose one more valued essential staff member. Over the last year, we've already cut to the bone. Further losses could devastate us and lead to greater loss of student population. The truth is we're currently lean and nimble. We're readily hopping between in-school, outdoor distance, partnership-based, running start, and many more customized programs for students' needs. We're in a powerful position to do great things. It's about now we mentioned the elephant in the room in the form of a microscopic virus, COVID-19. Yes, it is here, it is real, and we need to react to it for safety of all. And let's not race to be back to what we were. A return to normal isn't sensible yet, and who says we can't do better? The work that has been done so far is fantastic. We have learned so much about what parents and staff need. I have tried many things this past year and know what we need to improve. We created a detailed plan with 2 paths to offer families. COVID-19 is horrible, but can be also our excuse to be better. Understandably, until now, we have been in scarcity mode, reacting to a sudden and ever-changing situation, but we are now in the position to stop all the push and pull of fear. It is a rush to return to normal. Let's create a better normal. Think of all of our assets. Seasoned, creative, dedicated teaching staff, caring, committed, forgiving, and brutally honest parents, ready to pitch in, wartime of mobilization of community resources, cultural conditions ripe for authentic change. The big picture is it's time to sell our mission and our programs to the public. We can be what we always wanted to be. Our mission and directors talked about elements of outdoor learning. We have a campus that would make some universities jealous. We have the support of professionals, artisans, volunteers, and philanthropists. We have the programs to excite all of us, all of these groups, and bring this district to the top of the list. But if we don't believe it and if we don't position our offerings well, we will lose enrollment. It's time to find the silver linings we can and be the innovative district we have been for years. Finally, it's time for us to move from generalities to specifics. Without those, I'm afraid parents will move to things like homeschooling, unschooling, making their own study pods. There are many great ideas out there among your staff and the parents in the community. To accept those ideas, all we have to do is ask, be willing to listen. Here are a handful of ideas I have. Margie, in fairness to other public comments, because I know your comment moves us past much longer than our 3-minute public comment rule. I will guarantee you that the board and myself will read this letter in full, but I am concerned about our timing here. And so please accept my apologies for stopping at this point in time with your letter. I would like to move on to those who have submitted their other letters and give some time to our parents who have created a video as well. I have 3 more letters here and then the video. Hello, Slade. Thank you for your email yesterday. I appreciate, and this is from Christina McFadden. I appreciate your transparency with our community, and I know you are in an unthinkable position trying to do what is best for all of Vashon. My daughter Edith will be starting kindergarten in the fall, and I am struggling to imagine how I'll be able to provide the best educational opportunities for her while also working my full-time job. I'm asking that the school board consider a supplemental outdoor nature-based school option for the upcoming year. That way, regardless of what happens with the virus levels in our state and county, we can provide a stable and safe educational program for our island's children. I know that my daughter needs, education, but she also needs socialization, which will be hard to provide in a 100% at-home setting. We know that outdoor education increases student motivation, decreases stress levels, and improves immune function. Additionally, in this time when climate change is such a pressing concern, increasing our children's connection to the natural world should be one of our primary concerns. I would love to see our community combine our required Common Core education with a robust outdoor learning program. I know there are many families who are motivated to step in and help champion a program like this. I believe if we work together, we can make that happen. Thank you so much for all you do, Christina McFadden. This next comment is from Rachel Erickson. Dear Slade, I'm going to move past that first paragraph. Looks like most, here we go. My son thrives when he has in-person interactions. He'll be going into the 1st grade, and with being very young, the all online model is very challenging. Once again, families across the island are straining under the weight of work and the additional burden of facilitating an online education for elementary age students who in most cases cannot work independently. Thank you, Rachel. This comment is from Steve Ellison. Representative John Lewis passed away last Friday. A champion of civil rights and equity, he worked by peacefully drawing attention to injustice and then speaking truth to power on the topic, often uncomfortable or inconvenient truth. I ask the board to reflect on this and how they treat those who speak inconvenient truths to them, even and especially those they may question. How would you respond to Representative Lewis pointing out an inconvenient truth about board action? I request that the VISD honor Rep. Lewis by committing to respectfully and collaboratively engaging with those who bring well-meaning differences of perspective and opinion to the board. This is how positive change happens peacefully. Thank you, Steve Ellison. And then Jody, I'm going to go back to the Zoom. I've been off in the letter portion. Jody, are you able to play for us the last 3 minutes? I know you have that queued up and it was requested the last 3 minutes of the video be played. So Jody, whenever you're ready.
So I think the same thing goes for our kids. They need some sort of outlet where, you know, they at least do meet in smaller groups with their peers, outdoors. Yet Chautauqua has such an amazing space in the woods and the forest and the covered basketball courts. So this is in support of an option B, or in addition to the Google Classroom, for us to have for our children, the ones especially that really need the social emotional connections with their friends. Because let's be real, a lot of us, a lot of them have not been able to see many of their friends. Everybody's family has different perspective and takes on even just seeing each other distant. So anyways, thank you for listening.
Hi there. Thanks for taking the time to listen to our voices, and thank you for your work to figure out equitable learning opportunities during the pandemic closure. My kiddo will be entering kindergarten this year, and he, like so many other kids, will not benefit from a strictly remote instruction setup. The social aspect is lost, emotional learning is stunted, boredom and behavioral challenges set in, and we certainly don't want his first experience of big kids school to be mainly screen time. We ask you to consider offering in-person outdoor education for at least the months of like September and October, especially for the Chautauqua kids. The elementary kids really need this. Outdoor learning has many documented benefits. It has precedent from earlier pandemics. It's a matter of course in many countries, even with cool climates. And it's also a healthier option during COVID, thanks to fresh air, UV light, and just extra space. My spouse and I are lucky to have retained our jobs during the pandemic, but working full-time remotely means we cannot give the amount of attention that both our jobs and our kid require. Not to mention, it's just incredibly draining for all of us. I'm an educator myself, but I don't have the knowledge, expertise, or frankly, the disposition to homeschool my son. But if we don't have an in-person option, then one of us, me, is going to have to take a leave of absence from work, which will seriously impact our finances, and it'll be hard for us even to make rent here on the island. It's very concerning. So please consider every possible option for outdoor learning. We, the parents, are willing to help with whatever we can do, but we need our kids to be in school at least some of the time. And the health of our community can be protected if we work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. I just want to say I appreciate again, and I'm sure probably in board remarks we'll hear some similar sentiments, our community and their thoughtful engagement. I hope that folks forgive me as we try to make sure that we kind of adhere to our norms, but also providing enough space for comment. I want to ensure that all public comment will be read in full, posted, and folks will have access, obviously, to this video and our agenda, and every sentiment will be given full consideration. And thanks especially to Renee, who I know originally reached out, and I have offered an opportunity for folks who are interested to join our reopening team and planning, which will once again kind of start up in August. So I look forward to more engagement. Thank you, Reagan.
Okay. Thanks again for everyone who took time to send in comments. It's very valuable for us, checking in with the perspective of our community and our parents. And now we're going to turn to the superintendent report, and Dr. McSheehy will present that.
Yeah, just a few items, and I know many of us recognize, and what we saw in some public comment, that Representative John Lewis passed away last Friday. And I just want to recognize, I did some learning. I was not aware of his position and the impact that, and I still have a lot to learn about what he did in our country. He was a proponent of nonviolent protest. And in 1967, I have a quote. He said, "Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year." He said, "It is the struggle of a lifetime." And we are seeing that certainly unfold now. I would recommend to folks, I listened to the Daily from the New York Times and with Michael Barbaro, and he interviewed Brent Staples, and they spoke about the life and legacy of John Lewis. And so it was a very interesting listen, and I learned many things about John Lewis and his advocacy for nonviolent protest. But if you don't know, I'm going to read just a few things. He was one of the big 6 leaders of groups who organized the 1963 March on Washington. He was young and being schooled by Martin Luther King. He fulfilled many key roles in the civil rights movement and its actions to end legalized racial segregation in the United States. And in 1965, Lewis led the Selma to Montgomery marches across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, in an incident which became known as Bloody Sunday. Armed Alabama police attacked unarmed civil rights demonstrators, including Lewis, Hosea Williams, and Amelia Boynton, in which Lewis sustained massive head injuries. And as a member of the Democratic Party, he was first elected to Congress in 1986 and served for 17 terms in the U.S. House of Representatives. And due to his length of service, he became the dean of the Georgia Congressional Delegation. The district represented includes the northern 3/4 of Atlanta. So, you know, what an amazing person in our history, and I want to recognize the work that he did. I have a lot left to learn about him. The 38-minute podcast that I listened to just only made me more curious. And so that podcast was The Daily, put in by New York Times, hosted by Michael Barbaro, who interviewed Brent Staples, who's one of the head writers in the Times. The next item, just as it happens, I informed the board earlier today, but we did have a pipe coupling fail in Chautauqua in the lower floor by room 104. And it did distribute quite a bit of water amongst the 4 rooms. I was there today and did some inspection, and Matt and his crew and everybody else was on it really quick. I believe I can't remember who reported to us, but thank you. And but right now, Restorex is on the scene. I saw lots of blowers, vacuum cleaners, rugs being held out to dry. Matt, I know I invited you to the meeting. I'm not on the Zoom right now. I'm reading from my document. Matt, do you have anything to add about this coupling fail? I'd let the board know that you could fill in any gaps.
Yeah, no, it happened early Thursday morning. Staff caught it when they checked in. It was about an inch, maybe inch and a half water that flooded most of 103, 104 and those rooms on the east side of the building on the first floor. We immediately called Restorex, who of course we've used sadly in the past with McMurray Gym. They have blowers down there. We'll be drying out those rooms over the next week to 2 weeks. In retrospect, McMurray took about 9 days to dry out. In turn, I filed a claim with the risk pool. The risk pool will be sending out a company called Rimkus Engineering, which will take a look at the pipes and exactly what took place and what happened with that. What we know, what the crew has let us know, is that it was a failed coupler. Specifically, it looks like the threads gave away in between the connection of the 2 pipes over the years of expanding and contracting, because that's one of the main closed loop pipes that heat that side of the building. That's what we know at this point, and we will keep you up to date as more information we get.
Yeah. And this would be a great time if any board members have any questions, about that. Since Matt's on the line, let's go ahead and use this as an opportunity.
Hey, Matt, this is Toby. The water, it didn't make its way to the Chautauqua Gym area, did it?
No, this is way on the east side. So
Okay.
thankfully, no. As that is, that gym right now is currently, the floor is being resurfaced.
Right, yeah, would have been bad timing. But I know how hard it is on wood floors. Was there any other infrastructure that's delicate in that area?
Not that we know of. They did some moisture testing in the walls. Of course, it maxed out when they were there because they got in sight pretty much immediately. They mean Restorex, but they're in the process of drying it out, and they'll be testing every few days, and we'll let you know as soon as we know.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah, this is Bob. I'm at the risk of stating the obvious. It sounds like these couplings are probably at the end of their design life, and I would encourage you to investigate, if I imagine you already are, investigate replacing them all.
Yeah, absolutely, Bob. We've spoken with Brandy Fox, who has a person who we'll look into also, but also, like the risk pool said, exactly the same thing. They'd like to know exactly why this has failed. Is this just a weakness in the threads of the coupler, or is this the age of a building that's starting to fall apart in front of us?
Probably the latter.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
You're welcome.
Just kind of last in my board report part of this agenda, just to remind that we are going to have 2 board meetings, the public and the board. Just remind you that we will be meeting on the 13th and the 27th. And I'd like to invite the board on the 27th. If you remember, earlier in my tenure, we did a tour of the field, and the maintenance building is coming along, the fence is coming along, the painting is coming along. I think I would like to, that would be a great opportunity for the board to, maybe we could start the meeting or maybe do a little advance in front of the meeting and do some physical touring, of course, with social distancing, all the health protocols in place. We are reaching out to Brandy to kind of organize that. I think it'd be wonderful to kind of just check in on the work that those folks are doing. And then last but not least, just to let you know, I am out of the district. I'm taking a day tomorrow. Normally I don't tell you, I guess if I'm taking the day, maybe I'm over reporting, but I'll be out tomorrow along with Jody, and then it's possible that I'll be out in the month of October from the 9th to the 12th. So just kind of a heads up there. Okay. That's all for my report. Thank you.
Okay. And that will bring us to board member remarks. And Toby, you're on the top of my column tonight, so
All right.
I'll start with you.
Yeah, look at me. Hey, Slade, I would love to do the tour. I mean, whatever the logistics require, doing
Yeah.
that in advance of the board meeting. And so that sounds great. Thanks for the invite.
Figure it out.
You know, I don't have much to say other than, you know, both as a parent and a member of the educational community, I'm feeling the confusion, pain, the hurt of what we're struggling with. And, you know, it really sucks dealing with COVID-19, and it's personal to me and to people I know and care about. And so, you know, with that, I've read every letter, I've watched the video. I really appreciate people's creative ideas, willing to engage and contribute and share their perspective. And I think as we're creative and open-minded and that we trust each other, the staff, the teachers, the professionals who are our educators, that there's an enormous capacity that we have as an educational community to be creative and to make this better. And so I think the tone is there, and you know, we're all in this together.
Okay. Bob?
I don't really have anything. Just, you know, to echo what I think we're all feeling is that there are, we have a lot of options, and all of them are not great. And I ask for the forbearance of all of us, and in ending on, you know, in whatever, however we end up going forward. But I too, as a former parent, or a former parent of a kid in our schools, feel deeply the losses that every one of them is occurring as part of this pandemic crisis.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. How about you, Spring?
Sure. I was trying to get my, can you guys, I'm on my phone. I was trying to get my laptop going.
You're good.
You can all see me and hear me. Terrific.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was just, it was occurring to me that, you know, those letters were all so very thoughtfully written, and we have such smart, caring parents on this island. I feel lucky that those families are all in our district and their kids, and that, you know, there was a lot of themes coming through, and those concerns were really coming through loud and clear, and the urgency, and thinking of the urgency, then, you know, I was trying to catch everything, but and I know that Slade, you've been working really hard to individually reply to people as much as you can, but you know, just to make sure we have that the parents are really kept in the loop, and our stakeholders as far as, you know, the committee and when they're going to meet and how these concerns will be, that they've all expressed, and this idea of outdoor education, how it will all be, like, what's next, right? Like, we hear it and what it's being considered, but if there's any more sort of specific information that might be helpful to parents that you could just reiterate, I think that a lot of people would probably really appreciate that, who are tuned in right now. And I know that you have said that lots of times already, but just sort of one more time, you know, we know that there's that great link where people can click to see what the plan is, but this is sort of, you know, that the committee's already met several times, and I'm sure this idea, well, I don't know if outdoor education was really fully discussed, but you know, I know that, for example, Rebecca has already been in discussion with the Vashon Wilderness Program. I think Stacy head. So what else? You know, what else can we tell parents? What else do we know that can help give them some additional information when there's just so much uncertainty?
Thank you.
Thanks, Spring. Sorry, my dogs are going off here in the background. I don't have a whole lot to add to what Toby and Spring and Bob said. I just want to recognize that this is an incredibly difficult time for everyone, for your family personally, for your lives professionally, as parents. You know, we get it. We hear you. I work full time from home and try to match that with teaching my kids during online, and I have a special needs student, so I'm right there with you. And you know, my thinking goes around in circles on what the best thing is to do personally and as a district. And I just think we need to recognize that everyone is feeling this anxiety and this uncertainty. And the best way I think to get through it is to have faith in each other and to link arms rather than point fingers, and try to give creative ideas and, you know, question constructively if we don't understand a decision. We're trying to be very thoughtful and intentional in everything we do, trying to stay within the bounds of the law and the public health department, as well as use our unique Vashon skill set to bring the best solution we can to this problem, recognizing it's not going to be school as usual no matter what we do. And so we're all going to have to stretch. And I just want to encourage us all to be kind and to stretch together and to kind of do what Vashon does best in hard times, and that's to support each other and to be agile and versatile. And so I have every confidence that now that we know we're going to be in a remote phase, our staff and our administrators and our community will pull together to have some creative options, and it will be different than what it looked like in the spring when it was an emergency. This will be something we've actually had time to plan. So I think the 2.0 opening will have more content and more structure, and hopefully some outdoor in-person components if we can get that worked out. Because we all would like to have the best experience for our students and our staff and our learning community. So that's that. And that will bring us then to...
Hey, Reagan, I'm here.
Oh, hey, Sabat, I didn't see you down there. I'm sorry.
No, that's right. And so I'm a little, as my friend used to say, I have a big case of the highway wim-wams. We just drove 12 hours. So I just wanted to pop in and say hi and nice to see you all. And I'm just, you don't want to see me because it's not pretty, but I'm coming in late, but I'm assuming, I heard Spring, I heard what you said, and Reagan, I think you both covered it so beautifully. So I won't add to it because I really agree about the letters were incredibly thoughtful. I haven't had a chance to see the video. Tammy sent it to me just while I was on the road and I couldn't see it, but I'm looking forward to seeing that. So it's really, really helpful to have all the input, and I'm looking forward to hearing, because I haven't actually heard much from teachers, and so I'm curious to hear how what their take on this is, because they are obviously a crucial partner in all of this. So that's that. I also want to just say that on a completely different note, I swung by the construction site of the maintenance building, facilities building, and it's so cool. It's just like a little glimmer of positivity. Someday there will be people working in there on a building where there are children in a building, and it will be good, and we will be back to normal. So anyway, so that was good. So anyway, thanks to you all for doing everything, and I will be quiet now.
Thanks, Yvette. Thanks for dialing in from the road. All right, so that does bring us then to our reports. And so I believe this is Matt's show, so take it away.
Thank you. As normal is our monthly financial report through the end of June. Of course, we'll look at the dashboard, which Jody has up. It's 10 of 12 months, or about 83% of the fiscal year or our calendar year. Expenditures are about 82% of the year, so humming right along right where we should be. And then revenues are about 79.5%. And of course, revenues are always a little bit under due to, as I may sound like a broken record, the way the state delivers apportionment to us specifically, but schools in general, where May and June, they basically ratchet down that 8-ish, 9-ish%, which they should divvy out evenly, down to like 5 and 6%. And we will see that revenue increase in July and August. July will be about 12.5% of apportionment, and then August will be 10%. And if I may, that's kind of, lack of a better term, the game that the state plays, because it's their new calendar year. And of course, it's towards the end of our fiscal year. So they're kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul, but we'll see that revenue increase come July and August. Otherwise, everything looks fairly good and fairly normal. As we knew going into this pandemic, via OSPI, and Superintendent Reichdahl said apportionment will flow normally, and so far, so good. And it kind of shows in this financial dashboard, if you will, the monthly financials.
If there are questions for Matt, this would be a great time to ask.
Just had a very short one. And so Matt, I know you said this, and you provided a very great spreadsheet. Just wanted to hear it in your words that are given these very unusual times, expenditures are tracking normally with about what you would expect. And I understand the revenue side, but expenditures in light of COVID are not out of line with what we budgeted, recognizing this is a pre-COVID budget.
Correct. They look fairly normal. We will follow up with you, the board, at the August 27th meeting to walk through the COVID budget report, if you will. We presented that about a month ago, and we will follow back up at the end of August with you all also.
Good, thank you.
Slade and Matt, I have a question. I don't want to put anyone on the spot, so you feel free to answer some other time in email or something. But as Matt was presenting the dashboard, we have a matrix in there that shows the number of off-island students, kind of by grade. I would be very curious to know what % of off-island staff we have. And the reason I'm asking is that from time to time, relative to COVID-19 and the notion of people on the island feeling extra protective, questions come up around off-island students. And it dawned on me that we have a significant number of off-island staff members, teachers and other staff members as well, but I actually couldn't put my finger on what that % was. And I think that would be very helpful to understand and recognize the off-island community is not just students, but also critical staff.
I know Amy's joined us, but I'm gonna give my ballpark, and then Amy, you can correct me. We are generally around 200, a little over 200 staff members, and we generally have about 20% of that being off-island staff. Am I right, Amy? You wanna chime in?
Slade, you're correct.
Yeah, 20%. There you go.
Inexplicably correct.
Okay.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I didn't put you on the spot. You got it. Thank you.
No, I'm going to share with you. Amy texted me, everybody. So I'm just gonna, I'm gonna come clean. But as I remember, it was last year when we were working with kind of off-island, kind of looking at off-island staff, I thought it was like around 20, early the kind of early 20s. So that looks like it may have increased a little bit, but anyway. So thank you, Amy, for texting me and making me look good, but I couldn't do it.
I just have the ever-present question about enrollment, which I know you can't answer right now, but I just, Slade, maybe you wanted to just let everyone know when you're going to be sending out that survey again about enrollment and checking in with families about their plans.
Mhm. Certainly. So we're going to send that survey a little bit earlier than normal. And I was going to, speak to this in my report, but we're going to send both the staff. That's fine. It's all going to, after this, I told Jody, I said, my report on, reopening of schools is almost 5 pages long. So buckle up, everybody. No, it's just, there's just a lot of details, and I want to provide a lot of time for questions from the board as well. But regarding the surveys, we're looking to send those out earlier than that first week of August, kind of given the rate of change that's been happening. And so parents and staff members should expect by mid to late next week to see that same survey that circulated earlier. Every time you send a survey, though, you always recognize how you didn't word it well or you didn't structure it well enough. So there will be some small changes, but essentially the same.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
There's no more questions on the business and operations report, then we'll turn Slade loose on the reopening of schools.
Yeah, so gosh, I basically just have some discussion notes to share, and so I really recommend the board at any point in time kind of jump in with a question, and I'll share with you, because I'm kind of on the screen with my notes. If one of the other board members sees someone raise their hand or you have a question, just don't be afraid to jump in, because I don't actually have a visual on you right now. As kind of everyone knows, things happened pretty fast. I was on a regional superintendent's meeting, and actually in front of that there was some email conversation around some regional superintendents about, I think we all saw what Kent was doing. Then we heard about Los Angeles Unified. Then we heard about Portland Public. My own family, who was visiting larger school districts in Southern California, they had begun to make decisions. And if most folks recall, we on June 25th and prior to that, we had identified and recommended some reopening models that were aligned with Governor Inslee's Safe Start phase plan. And so, a lot of information kind of swirling about there, and districts making decisions and listening to public health that we wouldn't be able to come back with any kind of hybrid or in-person learning. And so with about 14 or maybe more districts announcing yesterday, and I know the anxiety in our public and our staff as well, and our families about what was going to happen, I felt it prudent to confirm what was already in our plan, that we had communicated, but to confirm that, from the news from Governor Inslee and Public Health that we would be in phase 2, and stage 2 of that, and that would be remote learning for us. I'm going to give you a quote from Patty Hayes, who's one of the head folks at Public Health Seattle King County, and she said that she cannot imagine a way to open schools without the risk of significant transmission of COVID-19 based on the current trajectory of infections in King County. And so, once again, kind of became abundantly clear that we were faced with just remaining in remote learning. And I think that what everybody had hoped for when we ended school in the spring, we saw transmissions going down, we saw hospitalizations going down, and we felt fairly confident that we would be in phase 3. And that unfortunately has changed. And so what we are now working on is again, kind of back in, I was talking with Bob today that it's a long time between June 25th and July 25th. There's so much time in there, and even just me being away for some days, it can feel like there's been months that have happened. But If folks remember back in June, we discussed that it'll be necessary for us to fill out what OSPI has as a template, a Washington Reopening Schools template. And in that template and that plan is part of, and in addition to a resolution 785, which you are in our board docs, that is actually what the board is going to be officially approving and what we'll be submitting to OSPI. And we just received the template last week, and I've reviewed it. I've marked areas that we've already, there aren't really any surprises. There are a few items in there that still need more work. Kind of with any grant, we go back and kind of highlight things. And so that template was late added. I don't know why I didn't ask Jody, but was late added to the board docs tonight. I encourage everybody to take a look at it. But it's been passed on to our admin leadership, who are mostly out of town, but I've identified the areas that need more work. But I'm going to share with you, it's divided into 3 parts. It's actually not, it's extensive, but not as extensive as I thought it was going to be. The first part just deals with the mandatory health requirements, which I think we all have some understanding of what those mean. What's our plan for screening? What's our plan for distancing? What's our plan for PPE? And so we've been, thanks for Sarah and Ann and our facilities folks, we've been working steadily on that. The second part of the plan are the statutory education requirements, which, kind of once again are, what are our plans for delivering education? And so we've been continually working on those. The third part of their template is what they call additional requirements. And it's kind of an odds and ends part of their template, but it regards tech access, which for us is hotspots and making sure Chromebooks, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about that a little bit later. What's our grading policy going to look like? How are we serving at-risk students? And there's several questions in there that address students furthest away from social justice. And then, what's our plan for professional learning? And a lot of this planning, unfortunately tonight, I'm, with staff being away and us being in basically the 3rd week of July, I'm not going to have answers or responses for you other than, next week admin comes back, and then we get the reopening schools team back, and we kind of reassemble the structures and systems to answer some of these questions. We can certainly answer them on our own, but we want to make sure that we're co-designing and working collaboratively with our staff all along the way. But I sent the board earlier today a question, because at August 13th is our next board meeting, and we are mandated to have this approved, our plan approved before the August 13th, well, at the August 13th board meeting, before 2 weeks before school starts. I sent the board, how do you wish to review the plan prior to making final approval? And as part of our discussion tonight, I was hoping to kind of get some ideas. Would you want a work session prior to our board meeting? Do you want a work session on another evening? Do you want to just make it part of the board meeting in terms of discussion and work? That's my kind of, I guess, my question to the board right now that I hope you've given some thought to, and we can kind of talk about that. And any other options, if there are other options as well that I didn't share with you. Yes, Bob.
Just for the benefit of I guess, all of us, and to clarify, if we say we are going to 100% online, does that foreclose any, is outdoor education inimical to that, or antithetical, or inconsistent with that model? Do we still have that flexibility, or?
Good question, and certainly, actually, great question. So no, it doesn't. In in stage 2, just to be clear too, we can bring back small groups. And, Chris Rakedahl has described it as if we're not able to meet the needs of students remotely, whether they be special needs services, ELL, AP scholars, I mean, kind of any student, if we're not able to meet their needs remotely, we are able to bring back small groups of students, as I understand, 5 or fewer in a setting. And outdoors certainly makes that better. We haven't been given guidance. If it's outdoor, you can have more or less. But we want to make sure that we're working kind of in conjunction with our staff. But it doesn't preclude that, no. And that's what I want to explore further and engage probably quicker than maybe normal. Hopefully next week I'm going to be able to work with folks with those ideas.
That gives me a great deal of comfort, because when I heard 100% distance learning, I took that as literally. And we have heard from Reagan, you used the words agile and versatile, and Margie said lean and nimble, and I think that I loved hearing that, and just that we will have some flexibility to be those things going forward if the board adopts.
Yes.
We are not foreclosed from doing that. So thank you for clarifying that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think one parent, I can't remember, Spring, this is where our parents are so good. They were so eloquent in how they say it, the competing complexities, or competing, I forget the exact words, but it isn't a snap of the finger kind of process. But it's certainly allowed and something that we can do. And I'm going to go even a little bit further. I'm going to go out on a limb here. Hopefully folks don't, I'm not jumping the gun too much. We've had staff outreach to us and say, I want to do more than be online. And so it really is just about engagement and what can that look like? I'm not, this is the balance, right? My heart is so heavy. So, sorry, that's just how I am right now with our families.
When you say we're voting on the plan.
Yeah. So basically, you're going to take a vote on a plan that offers, you're taking a vote on a plan that ensures that we're following the health guidelines, that we're making sure we have plans for at-risk students, that we're basically dotting the I's and crossing the T's.
That documents can be available in advance of next meeting.
Right. That document's with you right now. And my heart is heavy around our families and our youngest students, and I just want to make sure that we're not closing any doors. We're not, we're opening doors and looking at all opportunities. And at the same time, I'm going to be honest with you too. My heart's heavy for staff members who have, who are at risk and who want to make sure that their families are safe. And so we need to find the right balance and collaboration, and that's what we've been doing. What I'm fearful of is timing and just making sure everyone feels heard and listened to, and the stakeholders are part of it. But we have to make sure that that folks are safe first and foremost, and that's my goal. And so I'm going to do my best to balance the interests of everybody, and at the same time figure out how to do this work.
But to put a fine, I just want to make sure I'm clear. So we are voting on the VISD reopening school plan, Vashon together. That's what we are approving, or is there something in addition? I'm not clear on what it is we are approving.
Yeah, I don't see any difference. I don't see any significant changes unless, this board directs me otherwise, again, from that June 25th time and everything preceding that. I don't see us doing anything other than what's allowed by the Department of Health.
So you mean, so you are, can I, oh, Bob, can I,
Including things such as outdoor education or not? That's the part of, there's obviously no specific reference to outdoor education, I don't believe, in our plan. But if we approve our plan, it would not preclude some of the more, agile, versatile, green, and nimble ideas that come forward between now and then. That's the part I'm not connecting. Apologize if I'm being thick. That's the part I'm not connecting on.
Right. It doesn't see the one of the interesting parts of outdoor education is not everybody has the same definition of outdoor education, and that's fair enough to say. And so what I'm saying is that we're going to explore all options, but right now I know that what's allowable is groups of 5 or fewer in stage 2.
so the plan that we're going to be, that we're looking at and approving, hopefully, it's a general overview, and then you're going to sort of fill in the minutia of, the elementary will be doing, they will be really looking into outdoor ed. The high school will, whatever. I mean, is that what you're saying?
The template doesn't say elementary will be doing outdoor ed.
Right.
And that's why I'm curious is if you want, do you want a work session to go through the template?
You know what I think would be
You'd
great.
you'd actually be able to see, or do you want to review the template on your own and then come prepared for a discussion, or
What would be helpful is
provided the template. So that's why I'm expected to know what's in the template right now, because we were literally just provided that.
can we meet, or can we have a work session sometime before the 13th, just to sort of hear and to hear how things are going and where, sort of how it's all, just sort of like a check-in.
I'm assuming you're asking the board and not me, because
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think we need a kind of a progress meeting in advance of the 13th to touch base and ask any questions.
I would welcome doing that. Slade, I know you put a sort of a query out to us. There are little details, like, they're not little, but, for example, what is our knowledge of access to internet among our population? Are there hotspots? This is very granular, but they're granular.
It's part of that template.
So I would love to be able to look at that and kind of chew on it and go over it with the board as a group.
Toby and Spring.
Yeah, I have a question. I just want to make sure that I'm clear on what we're doing on the 13th. I think what we're doing is we're approving the template that we're submitting back to the state. Okay? And so I think Bob was kind of asking the same question, but just for clarity's sake. And that template is it's a lot of nuts and bolts around, do we have this? And we're attesting to that. And so it actually isn't.
Do you have PPE? Do you have,
Yeah. And so it's really not how we're going to do it. It's making sure that we have all the pieces, and we're attesting to having all the pieces there that allows us then to carry out our own plan.
Right.
And our own plan, we have that flexibility.
Yeah, I think even just to clarify even further, like the role of the board is kind of like an oversight. And what you're telling me is, hey, Slade, superintendent, go do all the things in the template and make sure that they're complete and accurate. And then, bring that work to us, for input and feedback.
So is it almost, sorry I just really want to be clear about this. So there's sort of almost 2 documents really for us. One is OSPI's template. These are all the boxes we're checking. This is what we're doing. We're whatever. And then not whatever, but you know what I mean. And then, right. And then the other one is the plan. And that's sort of like that's where, as parents, that's the one we are also very concerned with, because, you know, what does it look like for my, you know, elementary, middle, high school, you know, whatever. So, right, is that correct? Sort of parallel in my
Yes.
things?
Yes.
Back to Michael, what is the plan? Is it that you're telling, is it the VISD reopening? It's basically one paragraph, what we do in phase 2. Is that the plan, or that's what I'm wanting to get my teeth?
Those are the reopening models.
Okay.
And they're all part of the plan, which includes the health and safety and then the learning part.
And where in that document exists, where do I already have that? Have we been provided that document? And
Yes, and it's also part of this board docs as well. I sent it to folks mid-July. I also sent it in June. It's the one we were talking about today, Bob.
See, scroll down. There's a one pager. Keep going. Keep going. So I just want keep going. Keep going. So is this right here? Is this the plan?
Those are the recommended models, yes.
So we are voting on one of the, well, we're voting on basically the contents of this page. Is that what we're voting on?
You'll be approving the contents of this page, as well as the health guidelines and the statutory learning requirements. You're not actually taking a vote on this particular document. You're taking a vote on the OSPI template and the resolution, which refers to that template.
Cumulative plan.
Okay, so we will get the, and you're saying we will get the filled out template.
Right. And Jody, if you want to click on the template, I know you're kind of going between the documents right now. There you go. And so if you just scroll up to the top, that'd be great. To the very top. So here's the Washington Schools 2020 reopening plan template. And there's a link there. You don't need to click the link, because what it does, it leads you to a survey gizmo that is actually identical to the template. The template allows districts to fill it out in advance, and then I will transfer that information to the, as you can tell, OSPI has done a great job with workflow. I will transfer all that information physically and manually to the actual survey, because they don't allow you to complete the survey and then save it, or complete parts of it. So if you scroll down, Jody, it'll give board members an idea of, the work that I've done. I've kind of distinguished by colors so that I can have my leadership team understand better which areas still need to be addressed and which ones they should be paying more attention to. And then if you scroll down a little bit further, you'll see kind of mandatory health requirements, and it talks about, do we have a health official? Do we have,
Right. So basically, we're taking this plain vanilla template for all Washington school districts. We're customizing it with Vashon Island School District answers.
Right.
And then we're going to submit that back to them along with our phased reopening plan. And that is what we're going to be voting on in August.
Right, right. Unfortunately, it doesn't leave boards a lot of advance notice. It's not like the board can, it's not like, let's put it this way. We're going to be doing a lot of work behind the scenes, both with the leadership team and the reopening team, that we will not be able to, on a daily basis, probably update the board and provide them information on. So,
yep. But what I was going to say then is I was going to modify my answer to say, I'm not too interested in answering the template. I'm very confident that our administrators and teachers can answer the technical details on the template. I guess I'm kind of with Zabet in that I'm more interested in what happens beyond the template when we talk about what it looks like with where we'll be able to add outdoor components, small groups, special ed, those things that are kind of enrichments to the plan if we feel like we're not able to meet those needs strictly on a remote basis. So that's the kind of stuff I'm personally more interested in meeting to have a discussion on.
Sure.
Oh, I keep coming back to outdoor education, which I don't mean to imply that my thoughts are not well formed on outdoor education, but since we've had so much community interest in it, so please don't those of you out there saying, don't take this as an endorsement of the outdoor education that's been discussed, but if we want it, I mean, where is that question resolved for the proponents of outdoor education, that we will be doing it or won't be doing it? Where is that question? How is it transparent to
How's that processed? Yeah,
how is it transparent to them that they got it, they don't have it, and so that's the part that I'm not understanding, the implementation part.
Well, I think there's just a lot of questions around what it actually means. May not know, but I worked for a year in outdoor education, and so I have one idea of what outdoor education looks like. I'm sure it's evolved since I worked in outdoor education, but that's why I'm encouraged by our community, and I want them to participate in our reopening team so that everybody can be around the same screen table and ask questions and kind of deconstruct what does it actually mean. Like, for example, my question is, I haven't seen any outdoor education setting fully address literacy in mathematics and social studies, things that which I know our state holds us accountable to teaching. And so when someone says 100% outdoor education, to me, do they mean that we are going to move all of our literacy, all of our mathematics teaching, all of our social studies teaching to an outdoor environment? And I'm sure our educators and folks in our buildings would again wonder what there'd be more questions that would surface from that. And so this is why I think that's the conversation for the reopening team to have, and not one for me to make decisions on, because I don't fully understand the scope of what folks, I know what folks want. Folks want their kids back in school as we had planned in phase 3. That's what I wanted. That health situation has changed. And so what can we learn from each other? What are the possibilities, and what can we take advantage of? And I can speak more to that kind of later in my report too, because we have partnerships with folks that want to make more happen. And so, but that, the outdoor education plan is probably not something that we're going to see in the template.
I'm not asking. I'm just wanting to make sure which options we are foreclosing and which ones we are not with our vote. That's forgive me. I'm just wanting to make sure that I'm understanding. Because when we say the plan, that's where I got lost on what is the plan. And it sounds like the plan is that paragraph where you describe what is possible in phase 2 plus.
Right. Those are the models that were proposed in June and that we're carrying forward.
So there will be a subsequent plan in the conventional use of the term plan, which is this is how we intend to do things. Is that accurate?
I think the template will flesh out the details of that.
Okay. All right. Well, so in answer to your original question, I would welcome a workshop at the time of, if everyone else is, to understand what next year is going to look like in greater detail.
So it sounds like folks would like a workshop. Then the next question is, when would you like that workshop?
Can I chime in?
Yes, Spring. Sorry, you're right. I didn't hear from you.
It's fine. Bob had a lot of questions. That's good, because there were a lot of the similar questions that I had. Everyone did.
Right.
But I don't feel the need for any kind of workshop prior to approving the OSPI template. I'm really comfortable with just reviewing it via email, and if I have questions, being able to ask those, get them clarified, and then approving that template. I would love, like everybody else, it sounds like, an opportunity to, but I feel like Reagan and I, because we have those weekly calls with you, we tend to get a little bit more information. You have weekly calls actually with everybody, so I retract that. We're all really kept in the loop, or were in the past, but in any case, I really appreciate those opportunities to get lots of detail from you. I think I would just love to, I really am, my assumption is that the board needs to review it, and we want to support the plan that our esteemed and devoted committee develops together for the return to school.
But this isn't a policy per se. This isn't something that, I mean, this is unprecedented, but does it necessarily, I mean, if we didn't approve the plan, I mean, we're going to approve OSPI plan, but if we didn't approve the plan that the committee came up with, essentially the committee this was put together by administrators and teachers and thoughtful people. It's more like we're being kept in the loop. We're really understanding it so we can explain it to our constituents, to the community. But it's kind of like, this is a done deal. It was really well thought out. And if we have things that we would like to contribute, we better do that sooner than later, because by the time that plan comes across our table, it's going to be really close to hopefully being just finalized. So it's our chance to really look at it and really understand it and say, green light, good job, thank you for all your hard work, but not to like pick it apart, revamp it, anything like that. It's already like, this is basically this beautiful thing on a silver platter, presented to us, and then we get this opportunity to really understand it. Is that what everyone else is understanding as well? That's my assumption.
That's what I agree with, Spring. I'm not in wanting to try and rework the recipe of the soup. I just want to have a pretty good understanding of what the dish is going to look like before we have to actually vote it one way or the other, but recognizing that whether we vote for it or not, I mean, we are going to start school, so we got to start it in the way that we have made a plan to start it. So there's really not a whole lot of stop or go to the vote. It's just checking a box to say, yeah, we've read through it, we understand it, and we're willing to proceed.
Just to really clearly understand our role. And I don't know, and if there's others who have disagreement about that and they feel like they're wanting to be, it's not that we're not all equally invested in it, but I think again it goes back to really wanting to trust that the committee is handling it and thinking of everything, and that all of that input, that thoughtful input that we received from parents and will continue to receive from parents and community members is going to go to that committee, and when they reconvene, they're going to really do their best to try to equally accommodate all of our students, all of our teachers. But we can't make any guarantees about outdoor learning or anything like that, because there's so many competing whatevers it was, factors, needs. But that's how I feel. So I see that opportunity as, I'm not sure as a workshop, if that's quite how I see it, as more an opportunity to meet and review it together. And if we have questions that we want to clarify in our understanding, great, but not, I feel like that's a little different than a workshop in my mind.
Toby, your thoughts?
No, I agree. I don't see that I'm going to have much to contribute to the template that we need to provide. I've read it, and it's really nuts and bolts. It's an outline of things that we need to commit to, but it's not the details of the plan of how Vashon is going to reopen in those phases. And so I would like to be kept up to date, so I understand the evolutions of the plan, so I can effectively communicate and answer questions to people at the produce section in Thriftway. But I'm not going to get, I'm not going to peel it apart, and it would be inappropriate for us to do that at the last minute. So I don't necessarily, I don't know what you call the opportunity to review it in advance, but I agree with Spring. The template, I'm happy to review over email and give you thumbs up, and then off it goes. And then the plan, you engage us in how it's evolving at a time that's most appropriate. And if we all want to get together in a public session, I'm happy to do that too. I'm not going anywhere.
Bet, you want to chime in?
Sure. I agree. I think that we've all kind of figured this out, that there's the OSPI plan and then there's the Vashon plan. And the OSPI one sounds like we need to just sort of approve and say, yep, great, thumbs up, we are not going back to school full bore, which will make Chris Reichdahl sleep so much better. But I'm just listening to this. I mean, that's what I feel like the thing that we all have learned is that we make a plan and then it changes. That's our COVID lesson. And so, yes, I for sure would like to hear, what the committee is saying. I mean, I will be there, fortunately, but I would want to talk about it with you all, and it's sort of so everybody knows what's going on, because it's really important that everybody knows. I mean, the board and the community, but also sort of keep in the back of our brains is that, school will start August 31st, and with all intentions, we will start, with a great start. But who knows what will happen and what will get tweaked along the way. What will outdoor ed look like for middle school or elementary school, or, will it work? Will it not work? So I think just really, Reagan, to go back, I know it's sort of just, we keep saying this, but really that just sort of that linking arms of, yes, I want to keep checking in, and it's not just one time that we'll be checking in. This is such an ongoing process. This is a slippery fish we're dealing with. So I would say, sure, call it a workshop, but it's more like a bring the board up to date, Slade meeting.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was alluding to, is that the timing on this doesn't really allow for lots of, cycling through for feedback, and it's going to be difficult for the board to be engaged in the 200 or so, 300 or so kind of daily decisions that are being processed by me or my leadership team or the teachers and their folks. And so,
okay, what you're hearing from me, we're not voting on a plan. It sounds like we're delegating, if I understand correctly, we're delegating to others to come up with the plan. We are voting on the broad construct, broad outlines of a plan. That's where I'm getting hung up. So I will let go.
And we are going to approve their work.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing then is perhaps as long as I'm what I can do is just kind of continue to keep the board abreast of when we're moving through the template and moving through reopening, and maybe in my normal kind of Friday work. And we can always, it's not anything that we can't change, but we can provide space at the August 13th board meeting to come back together and review more information if necessary, ask more questions if necessary, but be prepared. And if we're not prepared to make a decision or take a vote on resolution 785 or the template, then I could organize something early, but I would work with Reagan in spring to understand the need for that in advance. But right now, moving forward, I would just make a separate discussion item. I mean, again, a full space for discussion, bringing the board up to speed, knowing that you're going to be regularly informed between now and then.
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I just have one quick short comment. Is that okay?
Sure.
We're on a schedule. So I am in support of outdoor education. I don't mind saying that. And I think that there's already many of us that have expressed that you are as well as board directors. So that I just want to, but it's not a simple, easy solution or decision. It's not my decision. But that there are many people, and I know that there's probably many people on the committee who are really receptive and open to it as well. So that we can hopefully, we can't make guarantees or promises, but that it is definitely, that proposal is going to get serious consideration, this idea of outdoor ed, and I really support that, and would like to see us be able to do anything we possibly can to make that happen.
And I've signaled that to the folks that I've replied to in the emails, and I think I also signaled that part of what drew me to Vashon was that potential. And actually what drew me to Hawkinson before I came here was the potential to, we had outdoor spaces where we were able to really provide strong career connected learning experiences in in our fields and swamps in Hawkinson. You may not know this, but most of Hawkinson schools are built on a swamp. And, you know, we, you know, really expanded what we were able to do. But again, that was all kind of in the physical life and natural sciences. And it left us, we did not teach literacy or project-based learning, what other folks might be considering outdoor. So it's a good opportunity for more discussion. But again, you will not see a stronger proponent for getting kids outside. In fact, I took mine to the Summit of South Sister not too long ago. They complain about being outside, and I keep thinking to myself, they're going to thank me later, right? And so I know the value of it. I spent my life outside, and you know, if you're a part of my family, you keep hearing from me that McSheehy's hike, and it's you know, it's just, so it's part of my ethos, and it's part of what drew me to Vashon, because we do have those opportunities. So I agree with you, Spring, and that idea will be explored and given great consideration.
I just had one last thought before we allow us all move on from here. And that is that as we go forward, we just need to recall that since we are in an unprecedented situation and we are being called upon to be as creative as possible, we need to check our assumptions on our definitions of what a lot of this terminology meant or used to mean to us, and be sure that we check in with each other to understand what our terminology means now going forward, so that, you know, when you throw out a phrase like online learning and there's a bunch of assumptions of what that means and what it doesn't mean, I'm just saying we can't afford to really have those kind of assumptions. We need to really have the open mind and the open heart to listen to, you know, what that might mean now in a COVID time period, and so that we have a chance to really hear each other and not just be shut down by a term, to find out what the term actually is going to mean as we create our new system going forward to deal with this. So just another plea for open-mindedness and patience and kindness and receptiveness, because everyone's doing the very best they can in a really undesirable situation. So we have new definitions coming on everything, so let's check our assumptions.
Yeah, well, I know our kids want to be back, our families want our kids to be back, our teachers want to be back, our parents want to be back, everybody wants to be back. And we're going to be tested kind of on our being uncomfortable for a little bit longer, but we have great people. And I remember saying that when we closed down in spring, and I'm just going to keep saying that. We have great people, families, wonderful kids. And I spent today with, I spent about 20 minutes with Vashon kids today because I wanted to see their operation, their outfit. And, you know, it's amazing to me watching what I kind of consider this normal engagement with kids, and kids having fun with each other and riding their bikes around and doing what they call seawater activities, pouring glitter in jars and shells and stuff. And yes, some were not wearing masks and some were wearing masks. And it gave me real comfort to know that even given this situation where not everything is locked down super tight, I had a single experience where I felt like, okay, this might be kind of a somewhat of a reality, and we haven't seen, you know, I mean, it's not a scientific study by any means, but we haven't seen transmissions move up, and that's a positive signal to me. Doesn't mean I make all my decisions based on what I see in Vashon kids, no, but it's one piece of evidence that shows me like, okay, we can bring kids together outside, and you know, there may be times when not everything goes perfectly. We remind them again to put their mask on, because that's what I saw. And you know, it may not be as bad as we hope, but we will prepare as much as we can for that safety. So I'm going to kind of maybe pick and choose some of the things that I wanted to talk about. This was a great conversation, by the way. So I don't want to you know, I don't want to ignore that, nor do I want to keep the board with all the details, but I will, any notes that I feel like I'm not sharing with you today, I can put in my Friday letter to you as well. Does that sound fair enough, folks?
Yep, thank you.
That sounds great.
Good plan.
Okay. All right. So, great. We got the question answered about the review of the plan. If you remember, in our plan 2, kind of securing the health and safety of our school community, successful support of academic and social emotional growth, and ultimately, and this is where I think outdoor ed plays a significant part. Our priority, one of my priorities, is maintain our unique Vashon Island School District identity, and this certainly speaks to that. And so, we've already spoke about outdoor learning. I had that in my notes. We're learning a lot from our community partners right now, and our team and community may not know this, but Carolyn Stearns, one of our kindergarten teachers, was trained last year in nature-based learning, and so that's encouraging. So we already have some experience on board, and what that can possibly look like for our folks. So we have some experts, kind of amongst us. Our next reopening team meeting, I scheduled it today. It's going to be August 5th from 9:30, or I might have made it from 10 to 12. I think I ended up making it from 10 to 12, so I wasn't backing up too much on my morning soup meeting. But it is on August 5th. Bringing the team together to update them, share information, what ideas are out there, what kind of collaboration we need to be doing. To make it clear, and the board, I know sometimes, I feel sometimes may, inadvertently or unintentionally mistake the role of the committee. The committee really, the team really does come back and give feedback. They do help design, they do help inform our decisions, but ultimately it has been the administrative team and myself making the larger decisions. And so that can become kind of a sticking point sometimes in our teams, is who does what are those roles. So they're super important, super integral to what we're doing. We couldn't make the decisions without the information that comes from them. But ultimately they are just in that kind of advisory role. I talked about the staff and parent surveys already going out. Just to let you know, we are exploring Seesaw, which is an elementary LMS, learning management system. The difference between Seesaw and Google Classroom significantly is that Seesaw actually comes with resources and curriculum embedded. And so it comes with some lessons that are kind of crowdsourced amongst teachers. We haven't made a decision on that yet. We're just exploring it. John Hodgson has some experience with it. Some other teachers have experience with it and have indicated to us, hey, you should explore this option. Unfortunately, if you move to another platform, teachers spend a lot of time in the spring looking at Google Classroom and working through those aspects. So it can be difficult to pivot, but I know that teachers will be involved in that decision. And right now we're just preparing a decision if we are going to pivot, that we're going to understand what it costs and what the training would look like. But for right now, it's just kind of being explored. In the meantime, Google Classroom is the platform for sure for 612, and PSESD has indicated they'll be offering training on that platform for staff in August. We have another training opportunity as well. It's $200 per staff. Starting in August, it's 8 sessions. We're not quite sure it meets our needs, but we're just looking at all options right now. We want to make sure that teachers are prepared as much as they can for the fall, given the circumstances where we are. So again, we need input from teachers, and that's what I'm hoping to get some engagement next week so that we can, as much as we can, be in front of some decisions. Here's an important one for the board and for our community. If they haven't already heard, I'm not sure Andy Sirius has communicated this out yet, but WIAA has, our sports governing body, has indicated that we are going to have 4 seasons next year. They're going to be shortened, And at this point in time, as schools have gone primarily remote and group size has been restricted, football and girls soccer are being moved to the spring. So the only sports in the fall that are right now scheduled are cross country, tennis, and golf. Which I'm going to be honest with you, as Jody pointed out, is an opportunity for more people to, if they want to participate in cross country. So that could be,
Or tennis or golf.
or tennis or golf or cross country. And Zabet's absolutely right though. Or tennis or golf.
Your bias is showing.
I know. But really, it allows, I think it will give students an opportunity to have an option that they may have never considered before, or would have always been their second option. All right, and so that should be interesting and encouraging, and who knows, maybe we'll get some tennis and golf converts out there, some emerging athletes that all of a sudden, kind of pivot from what they thought was their number one sport and find a new passion. Toby, you unmuted.
Yeah. Great sports for physical distancing and seasonal, but so football was moved to the spring, and girls soccer, was that the other one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, checking that.
Yep, absolutely. So that's important to know, and I'm gonna I didn't have time today to work with Andy, but I'll be kind of working with him and Danny to communicate as early as we can what that looks like for folks, and make sure that folks understand those options.
Is wrestling going to be moved to the spring, or traditionally I think it's in the winter, or we just don't know yet?
Right now winter sports are on, and so that hasn't been that hasn't been changed yet. No.
Yeah, if it's going to start spring, I think it's going to start in January from what I heard, as opposed to November.
Right.
So it's a little bit late.
So their seasons are going to be compressed and trying to kind of push forward as much as possible. Kind of just bring you up to date with labor relations. So we met with VEA and VESP leadership, I think the last 2 days of June. We had a great time answering questions, trying to clarify, kind of where we are, what we're doing. We're on a very positive note. Of course, that's, I don't know why I say it, it's not like it's been anything other. We also have days scheduled August 6th and 13th to work on memorandums of understanding. So I'm looking forward to that time together. And really, my intent is to co-design as much as we can with input and feedback and collaboration. And, leave no idea and off the table, and hopefully figure things out together. So, but that's real positive. Here's a couple important items in terms of business and operations. So, food services. Well, let me get to CARES first. So I know Matt was going to talk about COVID expenditures, and we did get a kind of a recent update. We were awarded essentially $122,000 in CARES, and all those funds are committed, and we're at this point in time, given encumbrances, we're about at $160,000. So, we are over, but as we've seen in the national news, a lot of kind of haggling and what does more financial support look like? We don't know. But I know, there is some hope that we will see more, federal dollars come our way. That being said, food services, regional districts and ourselves are uncertain if we're going to be able to continue food services similar to when we were in school closure. And so we just simply, unless we get some assistance, we simply can't afford to serve students outside of free and reduced, or the adults in the program. And so it does require more apportionment, more waivers from the USDA. And so there isn't any certainty to that right now, but I just want to prepare folks that that may look different. And, you know, school superintendents, including myself, have expressed a lot of, you know, a lot of concern around the sustainability of what was expected of us. And unless we're going to get more state and national, you know, and national support, we can't afford to do what we did, you know, last spring. Much in the same of childcare. Regional superintendents and other districts are not right now moving forward with trying to provide childcare. We feel like if we're going to provide childcare, we want students in school. We can't afford to supplement other agencies, and so, but we will be working strongly with any agency, and hopefully there will be others that kind of come to that space. But we're really uncertain whether, you know, whether schools were never meant to provide childcare simultaneously to providing school, and so there's just some uncertainty around that. I can't tell you for food services or childcare whether, you know, final decisions have been made, but I'm kind of preparing folks for that. Unless we get some type of support financially, it will just be an impossibility for us to do some of the things that we were able to do earlier. And as we saw, as I shared with you, the CARES money did not completely cover that, and even our, you know, some of our donations. So technology,
I'd have a real quick question about the CARES money.
Sure.
We've been identifying money we've spent relative to COVID-19. The CARES money is meant to cover expenditures we've already incurred. It didn't quite cover the expenditures we had, but it's money to cover what we've already spent, right?
Right. I think most districts are finding that they're not having any extra to provide relief moving forward. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if you have questions now, I'm kind of in my other document, so you will have to kind of check in with me. Technology, you know, we're working on the rollout of one-to-one Chromebooks, grades 6-12. John is also working on an application for screening, and kind of once again, you know, assessing technology and connectivity amongst our folks. That's part of the template. And you know, once again, we will be providing hotspots as well. Interesting.
My question, Slade.
Certainly, go ahead.
I believe you answered it, but you said one-to-one, and I just wanted to clarify. So a family that has 3 kids in the schools is going to get 3 Chromebooks.
Right.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, good clarification. Thank you. From what I understand, John had done some research on the hotspots that we had delivered to folks, and we delivered, I think, 12, maybe 15 or so hotspots. And it was unfortunate, but after the fact that we found out that the hotspots weren't really activated or utilized to the degree that we thought they would have been. So we still have some kind of understanding that we need to do in that space. In terms of communication, I'm going to kind of move back to more cadence of community updates. I'm always trying to get staff as much information as I can in advance. I'm going to be having a video Q&A with families on August 10th, similar to how we left off, and I'll probably do a similar staff Q&A probably a couple times in the month of August as well. If you've noticed, we've continued posting on Facebook. Congratulations to the young ladies who were elected mayor, unofficial mayor. They were part of our sisterhood work, and so thank you very much. Bravo. I'm going to kind of end with some exciting news. Gosh, as we know, one of the unique things about Vashon is that we have so many partnerships with our community, and I'm going to kind of just touch base on the work that's in place with some of those partnerships with VSA, VCA. Allison Reed and I have been meeting quite a few times, and just to share some of the kind of exciting news, Vashon Artists in Schools will continue. They received some new funding for some staffing for that. Allison has graciously offered their outdoor spaces and tents for small groups of students. If you drive by, you'll see ballet happening in kind of a space. She's said that we have access to the atrium. We're going to have maybe some access to some funds available that they put aside for scholarship students that we may be able to figure out how to work with take-home projects. She's also offered some of their auditorium and streaming abilities and so capabilities. And so we have like a 110% partner in VCA, and I'll say that for everybody. In BYFS, providing ongoing Latino advocacy and outreach, counseling services, Vashon Kids. I meet with them next week officially, but obviously I spoke with Delinda today, and I saw them. So I'm excited to learn from their experiences, but also to understand, what we might look like, not only in their current phase, providing, some opportunities, but also what would it look like in phase 3 and phase 4. Harbor School, I met with Terry this week. I shared some resources with her. We shared the calendar. She provided a really nice communication to her families that I thought was extremely helpful. I have taken that kind of template and format and sent that out to my admin team today to really describe what a day in the life of a student would look like. I think that'd be very helpful for our families. And so we're going to be working on that and hopefully get that communication out to our families by mid next week. When the admin comes back, we're going to come back and look at that. So I had a great partner in Mark before he retired, and I feel like we'll be working more closely with Terry this year. I met with Hillary Emmer, who is part of the Vashon Social Services Network, and it was really helpful to me. I met with her on a completely separate topic, but of course we talk and talk and talk, and she's raised over $110,000 in donations for rental assistance to families in need in the island since the closure. And so she just received another $8,000 check, which will go to, again, folks who need help with their rents. And really the benefit of meeting with her was getting, again, more information around the impacts of closure on our families and our most vulnerable families. So she's a great partner. I continue to look forward to working with her. We met with WSF, Washington State Ferries. They're anticipating maintaining a 2-boat schedule, probably not getting back to their 3-boat schedule before the end of the year. They're hopeful, but I wanted them to be realistic, and that's what I heard. So right now we're reviewing start and end school times with the ferry schedule. Most of the times line up fairly well, but there's going to be some ironing out of some details on that. So, but we also started a conversation about health precautions and, what's it look like when you bring, a number of students onto the ferry. There'll be significantly less because they'll be probably on an AB schedule or and on half when we actually are able to have them back. But we'll be needing to do a lot more collaboration with them around what does that look like. And then just let you know, my upcoming meetings. I met with Sisterhood today about continuing circles. And what would that look like if students were in person, small groups, outside in the morning with their teacher, and then in the afternoon, if they were, let's just say, go to VCA for some art enrichment and maybe circles. So just kind of beginning that conversation. And then now, until next week, I have meetings with the director of Camp South, Stacy Hinden from Vashon Wilderness Program, the guys from Journeyman, Vashon Be Prepared, Vashon Nature Center. And so it's just a wealth of resources, a wealth of support. And I'm so happy that we're connected with, with all of them. And that's kind of the high points of my my reopening update, and certainly if you have other questions that you thought I was going to cover that I didn't, I'd love to answer them.
That sounds like a pretty comprehensive list of partners that you've been talking with, and that certainly gives us confidence that the plan is going to be the best plan it can be when it comes to finalized.
I'm just grateful for the offering from VCA and the other partners generous, and it's just perfectly supportive of what we're trying to do.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
with the students first in mind, that's great.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I thank you for reaching out to everybody and, to the Harbor School and with their new head. And I mean, we just work better when we were working together. So thank you for being a good role model.
Right, right. No, what a great way to come back from a break, right? To kind of dive headlong and just to engage that way. So it's it's been real super positive, super positive. And so, the work moving forward is next week. Admin will be back for some short periods of time. And typically they're not back until the week after. I'm bringing them back. I'm always respectful of people's space and balance. And that's always, if you've heard me talk with staff before, I've talked about balance of our lives. And so I want to make sure that they're doing what they need to do. But there's just no doubt about it. We need to get some things moving sooner than later. I'm hoping to again engage some of our teacher leadership and classified leadership next week, and then really start laying out when the team comes back on the 5th. Really start kind of hitting it hard with, for me, if you were to ask me what my most urgent need right now is to figure out what's the professional development that we want to move forward with for teachers in August, and then how do we do that without them involved in making that decision, but they're not back to help make that decision, but yet we only have so much time in front of us. So that's my kind of, if you were to ask me what kind of buzzes around with me a little bit, that's part of it. I want folks prepared as much as they can be for what we're going to be doing. Folks have asked me how long we're going to stay, or how much, how long do you think we're going to do remote learning? And my answer to that has been, we're really relying upon the state to give us guidance on that and hopefully move to phase 3. And, I will tell you this, if someone were to tell me that, even in phase 2, we could do X, Y, and Z, I would say, let's go explore X, Y, and Z then. So, I know folks seem to, can assume that I'm specifically tied to a reopening phase. We've obviously seen the governor move in and out of his commitments to the phases with modified phases, and we're going to do this instead of phase 3. We're going to do so. I know it's mutable, and that's the term that is used in the resolution. If you happen to read through it, I like the word mutable. We recognize the plans are mutable, and so I want you to know that. My goal is to get folks back as soon as we can and as safe as possible. And if there's opportunities to do that, I'm not going to set a 6-week timeline or 4-week timeline or a kind of something arbitrary. I'm going to say when we get a green light, and if we get the people necessary to plan and make sure that that's what, that's a shared decision, then we're going to make that decision. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Slade. That's a lot of ground to cover. Appreciate all the details. All right, so that brings us to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Is there any new business? As if we didn't have enough business. Okay. Not hearing any new business. And we're going to go ahead and adjourn at 9:03 p.m.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for everyone. Appreciate
Thank you.
everyone listening in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
Slade, would you please text me the Zoom code for the other meeting?
Okay.
Me too.
Okay.
Have a beer to go with it.
Maybe I'll email you. Okay.
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 Okay.